Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. My name is Sebastian Sequoiah-Grayson. I'm an academic here at the School of Computer Science and Engineering, and I'm delighted to be hosting and emceeing today's panel for the Day of AI. I'd like to start, if I may, by acknowledging that this event is taking place on the stolen lands of the Bedegal people and that sovereignty has never been ceded. And I would like to pay my sincere respects to all Indigenous persons in this room right now and who may be listening to the recording afterwards, and my respects to their ancestors past and their descendants to come. I'm also delighted to introduce our panelists. I'd like to introduce Tamara Templeton, a primary school teacher from Townsville, Professor Didar Zowghi, Senior Principal Research Scientist at CSIRO's Data 61, Sarina Wilson, Teaching and Learning Coordinator, Emerging Technology at New South Wales Department of Education, and Katie Ford, Industry Executive from the Higher Education sector within Microsoft. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for being here again. Now, I have a series of thanks to make to our partners. I'd like to thank Day of AI Australia sincerely for choosing to have this event here on the University of New South Wales campus today. Thanks also on behalf of Day of AI Australia to the CDC data centres, ROCT, Commonwealth Bank, Officeworks and Hydro Tasmania. Immense thanks also to TDM Foundation, SquarePeg and the PNS Bassett Foundation. Together, these partners make the Day of AI in Australia possible, which is no mean feat, I can assure you, and they make it free for all school teachers and their students. So again, thank you. So some background before we start. A recent study by Year 13 in collaboration with Microsoft and KPMG found that while 84% of young Australians aged between 15 and 24 have utilised generative artificial intelligence, only 27% said that they have an excellent or very good understanding of it. We know that young people are using artificial intelligence tools. Ensuring that they understand how artificial intelligence works, however, and being confident and responsible as users are no longer mere nice-to-haves, but rather requisite skills for our emerging and future generations. And so, Day of AI is a free classroom program that provides foundational AI literacy for teachers and students in years 1 to 10 and so on. Originally developed by MIT, the Day of AI Australia's program is curriculum aligned and tailored to the local context with expert partners including us and CSIRO and Microsoft. The program covers everything from the basics of artificial intelligence, how machines learn, how they create things, and how AI is being used today and used in different industries and careers. The program also includes a challenge where the students are asked to develop ideas for how AI can tackle a real-world problem, and I have been a judge on the panel for this challenge one of those years, and if I could have awarded a prize to all of the students taking part, then I would have. They were all fantastic. I'm glad I was not on the decision panel for the actual prize, as rather I was on the mentor panel. It would have been heartbreaking because they were all really, really great. Now, the dedicated ethics lesson, an area that is close to my heart, developed here within UNSW, in which students explore the risks and limitations of AI, encourages students to think critically about the technology, and it helps them to develop skills to be ethical, responsible, and safe users and designers of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not something that we are getting just off the shelf today. Rather, it is something that we're building together as a species, and it is our emerging adults who will be the very soon to present engineers of the artificial intelligence of tomorrow. So without further ado, I would now like to ask the panel, and I will start with Professor Zowghi, if I may. What does true artificial intelligence literacy look like beyond just knowing how to prompt a chatbot?
First, at the outset, I'd like to say that whatever I say is not necessarily the opinions of my employers. So many of what I might say is my personal thoughts based on what I read and what I see and what I experience. So I think that AI literacy is not just about prompting conversational agents, but really about learning to ask the how questions and why questions, and really to understand how you can engage and develop agency with AI. To ask a question, how does the AI come up with the answer that is given to me? How was the data collected? Who was involved in the data labeling? What are the potential risks and harms that may be caused? So all of the ethical and social issues and questions around AI need to be learned and taught and asked. And so I think literacy is not just about the technical part, or as you said, just learning how to prompt. And these days I find that a lot of people actually go and ask these agents to tell them how to prompt them, which I find it to be kind of quite worrisome, because you don't even know how to pose a question. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot more to it than just knowing about how to write a prompt.
Thank you so much. May I invite the rest of the panel to make a contribution, in particular Tamara as our school teacher.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I thought that was fantastic. It's so important that our students and our teachers, our educators understand how AI works and why it's important to understand how the data is collected, all those kinds of things, to make sure they're using it safely and our students are using it safely as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Sarina?
Yeah, there's two other things I'd like to add to that. Coming at it from a teaching and learning perspective in the New South Wales Department, we think it's really important that teachers and students have a good understanding of when to use AI, how to make intelligent choices about when AI tools are the right tools to use and when they should be relying on other tools for the best possible outcomes for their learning. And we also find it really important for teachers and students to understand how to use the output of generative AI. What do they do with that output? How do they refine it, contextualise it, and make intelligent choices to make sure they are taking ownership and responsibility for using the output of AI tools.
Thank you so much. And Katie?
Yeah, I agree with everything that has been said. One thing I would say is in the research that we've done around what employers are expecting to see from students when they come out of university or school or from TAFE, it's that prompting is great, that skill of interacting and using AI is wonderful. They're actually looking for the thinking skills around it. They're looking for critical thinkers and critical doers. So they're looking for people who can evaluate bias, as we've talked about, who can value add on top of it, who can make a decision about when to use it and when not to use it, but also to use it as a thinking tool, right? To not just use it for a quick, serve me the answer, but how can I enhance the way I think? How can I do more than I could ever do before? We talk about metacognitive skills in education. It's all those skills that actually schools and universities and TAFEs are very good at teaching students. Critical thinking, communication, evaluation of bias, these are the really strong skills we need.
Thank you so much. And now I have a question initially for Tamara, but for all of us as well. And it's one that's very close to my heart as a teacher at university myself. Students are young, and young people have a lot of time on their hands, and they have a lot of inquisitiveness about their nature. And ultimately, this means that young people are adaptable at speed. As we get older, I'll be the first to confess, some of us might, some of the time, become slightly less adaptable at speed than we were when we were younger. What can we do, both as schools, as institutions, and as industries, and as a society, to help the teachers get across the details of generative artificial intelligence and the opportunities and challenges that it poses for everything from optimized learning outcomes to authenticity in assessments?
Such a tricky question because teachers' time is really poor, and we have a lot of things that we need to be able to achieve in our time frame. But I do think that learning about AI is so important for teachers because our students, they're going to be the first students going into the workforce where AI is such a big part of their future roles. So whilst it's hard to learn about, it's hard to do, it is so important that our students are empowered to have those skills. And the first person that can help them with that is their teachers. And one way that I did do that myself was by using the Day of AI program in my school. And that's how I learned a lot about AI. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to contribute to this? It's one of the hardest questions that we're asking, I think, today as a society. So no pressure.
I'd love to on behalf of the department. I agree with everything Tamara says. You know, this is a big consideration for teachers, but it's a big ask of their time as well. So there are three things that we're prioritising in the department in terms of building the confidence and capacity of our teachers to use Gen AI intelligently and to help their students learn. The first is professional learning. You know, our teachers are telling us over and over again that they want to learn about this. So we are providing that core learning on the safe and ethical use of generative AI, and then we're providing more targeted professional learning to help teachers learn new skills at their point of need. The second thing is use cases. You know, we have teachers in such a variety of schools, more than 2,200 schools across the state. And what Gen AI will look like, Gen AI use will look like for each of them is a little bit different. So we're providing a variety of use cases to teachers across our system to help them see how it can really authentically help them in their core business. And where we can, we're providing those use cases as real school stories from across the system as well. And then the third thing is we are providing a safe and secure generative AI tool to help our teachers and students learn to use Gen AI in a safe environment. So you might have heard of New South Wales EduChat. It's a department-owned tool that we built within the department. We launched it at the start of last year, and it's been trialled in 50 schools throughout 2024. We had such success with the trial that we've rolled it out to provide access to all staff across the system now. So the data from New South Wales EduChat stays within the department, and it has filters applied on it to make it safe for students to use. And in providing this tool, we've given our staff and students a safe space that they can start to experiment, to learn those Gen AI skills and start to develop some AI literacy as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to say a few words on this?
I just wanted to say a couple of things. First is, as you said, the younger generations are much faster than my generation in terms of learning and adapting to tools. And I think that one of the things that I've seen recently, and perhaps not necessarily at school level, but at least at university level, in that the students have realized that their lecturers are using generative AI for a variety of purposes, for to doing their tasks. As you said, everyone is time poor, so if you can find a tool that can save you time, then you can, without really thinking about the consequences, just use it to generate quizzes and this and that. And university students, I can't remember which university it was, but they have actually put a complaint that yes.
I saw that. Yeah.
So the lecturer is not doing their job and they're getting paid, but they're just using generative AI for teaching and learning. And I think this is something to look out for. But the second thing I wanted to say is that I'm a great believer and a practitioner in human-centered design and deployment. And I think that whatever you're going to help the teachers use for teaching and learning as a tool, it's important to have them on board in relation to, if not in its design, if you cannot, but at least in its deployment, and to have a very inclusive attitude towards the deployment of AI in education with consultation and with their feedback and their monitoring and all of that. So I think it's not just a one-way thing, it's a sort of a bi-directional the design and deployment of AI for all users, especially for teachers in education. So I'd say you need to have them on board and use their feedback.
Wow. Katie, would you like to say a few
I'll
words
be
on
very
this?
quick. I was just going to say one of the sad things about getting older, and it may not happen to you students, but I certainly have seen it, is that we lose the art of playing and just playing around and making mistakes, and we get so efficient and so focused. And I love what New South Wales and South Australia and others are doing around really focusing on the professional development. Really important, because I think, teachers obviously want to know what are the rules, what are the capabilities, what's the mental model of how this works, what are the great best practices for how we can use it. But I think one of the great things I've seen in South Australia, but I'm sure it's happening in New South Wales as well, is, they created EdChat knowing that it wasn't ever going to be perfect. They wouldn't know exactly how it was going to be in the classroom. But Martin Westphal, the CEO of South Australia Department for Education, says, look, we wanted teachers to learn with students. Teachers are not going to know everything, and that is fine, but we want to build a culture of learning, and it's okay to make mistakes. Like, this is not going to be perfect, but the magic, I think, comes where students are learning with their students, teachers and students learning together. That is absolutely gold. I have an 8-year-old. We play around with these things. He is far more adventurous than me, and I actually learn a lot just from watching how he uses it. So I think that partnership, it's just sort of a different relational thing, but that partnership and learning in the classroom is one of the great opportunities I think AI presents.
Yeah, absolutely. Together or not at all, I suspect, on this particular front. This is a great lead-in to the next question. With AI tools being used increasingly in classrooms, how do we build trust with teachers, parents, and students with regard to their appropriate and responsible use? We just heard that we need to do so, but how do we achieve this? Tamara, would you like to lead in on this since you're on the front line here?
I think really rich professional development, quality professional development from people who truly understand AI, the implications, the possibilities, teaching and learning, what's important for teaching and learning, really important. So just education. Teachers want to know how to use it, they just don't know how. So providing those professional learning experiences which are high quality will be great for those teachers, which in turn is great for those students, which in turn is great for the community.
Yeah, no doubt. Would anybody else like to contribute? Yes?
I think there's a third party to this ecosystem, and that is the parents. And so it's not just about teachers and students, but also the parents. And I think in a lot of ways, it's the parents who decide, at least at the younger ages, that what their kids are supposed to be engaging with and build agency to engage with. And what I was thinking is that the fundamental way of building trust that is being amplified everywhere is transparency. And so we can see that in government, who is now asking all its agencies to publish a transparency statement in the website to say exactly what AI is being used and how it's being used and who is accountable and where do you go if you have problems, etc., etc. So all of that is part of the building of transparency, which is meant to increase or enhance trust. Although I haven't yet seen an evidence to say that, yes, there's a direct link between building these transparencies and enhancing and improving the trust. And in fact, trust itself is indeed a concept that is difficult to define. It's very contextualized and very, very purpose-specific and task-specific. So, but I'm thinking in education and teaching and learning, perhaps that purpose is very clearly defined. We know what it is that we're trying to do in education sector. And therefore, it shouldn't be too hard to think about what this transparency should look like and what should be basically communicated and socialized with parents, with students, and with teachers in relation to the use of AI in education. That hopefully will either enhance or hopefully build that kind of level of trust that you expect.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to say a few words on this?
Yeah, one of the things we've found really useful in building trust amongst teachers across our system is quite simple, and it's providing a prompt library. So what we have found is teachers across our system have told us they're a little bit nervous about what they can do using generative AI, what they are allowed to do and what's safe and ethical. In providing a prompt library for New South Wales public school teachers, we've achieved two things. Number one, it's a time saver because we provide prompt templates that they can then modify for their own use. So that's a great advantage. But in terms of building trust, it showcases for them what are the uses that will be safe and ethical and also will be effective in building great learning experiences for their students and in saving them time. So it's a very simple thing to put together. It's quite a straightforward initiative, but in terms of building trust and helping teachers feel confident to start using generative AI where they maybe haven't before, it's been really powerful.
Thank you so much. Katie, anything from you?
And just one additional thing, which I think New South Wales has done a spectacular job about, is providing transparency statements on the internet about what happens to student data. What is actually stored? Where is it stored? It's stored in our environment. No one else has access to it. It is protected, secure, and so on. And I think as a parent myself, I know that those are the sorts of questions I have. What happens to the data of my children? Who has it? Who can see it? And what can they do with it? I think also having regular conversations, it's not a one-off conversation with the parent communities and students. It takes time to build trust. I am so passionate about making sure that every child in Australia has the opportunity to learn AI, how it works, because it will set them up for the future as we're talking about today. But that only happens if we build trust around these tools and around how they're being used in the classroom. I think there's a very legitimate question that teachers sometimes ask us, which is, I don't want my students to be lazy thinkers. I don't want AI to replace their thinking. And this is where all the great work you're doing around making sure that it's grounded in good pedagogy, in making sure we're using it as a thinking partner to enhance cognition rather than replace it is so, so valuable.
Thank you, and that is a perfect lead-in to the next question. So shifting gears here slightly, but less than we would have had it not been for your comment. How do you think that artificial intelligence is reshaping the Australian workforce? And what types of jobs will today's students need to prepare? So, Sarina, I might start with you on this one.
Absolutely. Look, predicting job changes in the future is for someone with very different skill set to mine. I'm a high school teacher. But what Katie said earlier really resonated with me, because what we are finding is that the most valuable skills and the most kind of resilient skills we're developing in students are those very human skills. And so it's absolutely essential that they're learning how to use technologies and to operate them. But those human skills are the ones that are going to make sure they can remain agile in the face of changing jobs. So Katie mentioned critical thinking. Absolutely, we're focusing on developing our students' capacity to interrogate everything they read, to search for truth relentlessly when that becomes challenging for them. Metacognitive skills as well. I spoke earlier about making intelligent choices about when to use generative AI tools, helping students reflect on what needs to be done to complete a task, plan it, make choices about the right tools to use, and then reflect upon their process. And Katie, I'm just echoing what you said before now, communication as well. It's so important. You know, our students do need to learn how to communicate with AI. However, more importantly, they need to learn to communicate what they have, the output from AI. They need to learn what to do with it, how to recontextualise that, to use it for different purposes and to communicate it with a range of different audiences.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Tamara.
Yeah, I want to go back to critical thinking, which is what we were saying before, but it's so important, those human skills, critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, all those things that we need to do, because we need to teach our students those skills. The jobs that they're going to do later probably don't exist right now. So we can't teach them how to use the products now. We need them to have the skills that they need to use the products in the future.
And Professor Zowghi.
I think that I'm going to look at the other side of this, and that is what we have to be careful not losing is all those skills that you were saying. By over-reliance on technology, in my opinion, is quite dangerous in any field. There has to be a sort of a moderation level, and I don't know where you hit that balance, but I find, for example, countries in Scandinavia have kind of decreed that we're not going to use generative AI at school at all, so just ban them. And then on the other hand, you see, for example, China, they've been teaching school kids from 2017 about the use of AI ahead of everyone else. And to some extent, I find that now you find that this over-reliance means that to some extent you become complacent and lazy, shall I say, that, oh, yes, okay, there's this tool that can write my essays for me. Why should I even use my brain to do that? And so this is something that worries me a lot for future generation, in the sense of not focusing too much on usage of AI technologies to get rid of those communication skills. For example, you still have to communicate with other humans, no matter how many robots or AI is going to be around. And if you become too reliant on only conversing with a machine to do things, then I think you lose those capabilities and nuances of human communication. So I just think that, for every job, you need to have that kind of skill to communicate with humans. So don't.
What I'm hearing for everybody from everybody is that there's a genuine hunger within the education system for something like a structured syllabus on critical thinking. Right, just because teachers don't have enough to do, so we'll give them a new syllabus. But I'm being very serious. Critical thinking is a skill that we learn through practice, and the sooner that we encourage our children to practice it explicitly, under the rubric of this is what critical thinking is, as opposed to not quite critical enough thinking, then perhaps the sooner we'll make genuine progress on this particular front. On technology.
Can I jump in there, though?
Sorry.
Seb?
No, please carry on.
Just to add, though, one of my degrees I did at UNSW. Oh, that sounds terrible. But I've done a couple of degrees at UNSW. My first one was in history and law, combined degree. I obviously didn't practice in that space, but history is a great passion of mine. I learnt from history how to take a source, critically evaluate it, understand whether it's trusted, understand to what extent I should integrate it into my argument. Law, same thing. You have to evaluate. You have to weigh things up constantly. And this is the key skill we need for our students to thrive into the future, is to not take AI on face value, as you're saying, to push it, to interrogate it, and to understand what's underlying it. These are key skills. And I think in terms of jobs changing shapes, jobs have always changed shapes. When I started in the workforce 25 or something years ago, you would laugh at the things I used to do. I would have to sit at a fax machine, I don't know if anyone remembers this, and go through and type in numbers and send faxes to schools. This is back in the day. It would take hours to do that. Now we click a button, it goes through emails. I was showing my son how to dial a phone, those dial-up phones. I'm like, oh, you made a mistake, hang up, try again. He was like, what? So technology has always changed, and technological change has always changed jobs. But we are at a point in history, at an inflection point, where that acceleration is going to get a lot more rapid. And we will see changes come to jobs. We are seeing it today. We speak to employers who say, I'm looking for teams of people who can manage agents, who can manage AI, who understands how they work together. It's a shift. It's not going to replace people, but we need to think about what are the human skills that we have that make us special as humans to make this work, because we will all go into jobs. You wonderful students will go into jobs where there will be AI and humans working together, and it's how you work together with the AI that is going to be absolutely critical.
Hear. And technology might not replace people, but it changes us Technology affects our attitudes, and our attitudes affect our behavior. My favorite example is the following. When I was young and an adolescent, if my mother had insisted that I was not allowed to leave the house without a real-time location tracking device so that she could keep track of my precise geophysical location on the computer, I probably would have been able to go to the police. As that my mother has cracked, and she won't let me leave the house without this location tracking device, and it would have been frowned upon, to put it mildly. But now that that behavior is so enabled by smartphone technology, I've been trying to find a single friend of mine who is a parent of adolescents who will let them leave the home without location tracking turned on, and I cannot find a single one. And that attitude turned on a dime because it just became so easy to do. And none of us saw this coming, or more interestingly, I think, noticed it happen until it's pointed out. How do you think that artificial intelligence will affect our attitudes in such a way as that effect of our attitudes will affect our behavior? We're not fantastic at seeing this coming, as I just said, or predicting it, but I would love to put everybody here on the spot and ask you what behavior of ours in 3 years from now will have been fundamentally changed as a social species as a function of generative artificial intelligence. I'll open that one to the floor. Whoever would like to wade in first, you are welcome.
I can think of a very simple thing, and that is to find information. I think I find that among my circle of family and friends, that a lot of people have replaced, for example, search engines on their computer or on their mobile phone to look for something, to find some information into chatbots. And that, I think there's a danger in that, because when you look for some information through a search engine, you're given choices, you're given, list of hits, and that is often optimized by who pays you more or how many times, a particular website has been looked at. But when you go and ask a question from chatbots, you only get one answer, and it becomes singularity, basically. And I find that vast majority of the younger generation are satisfied and happy with that just one answer, and nobody questions that how did this one was selected by the large language model that I am engaging with to tell me. And most often than not, people don't continue and interrogating the chatbot to say, what about other views? What about other opinions? Is there anything, against this? And so we end up really being fed the same things, and this sort of, finally, you also use this in your writings, and it gets back into the data set and this echo chamber, and you end up having, just being satisfied with whatever the chatbot tells you without really worrying about asking the why question, or how did this come about, where did this data come from?
This is fascinating. It sounds like what we're looking for now is something like the Goldilocks zone of data or information. Before generative AI, there were too many streams of information, and people were in their own information tunnels and their own echo chambers and their own information bubbles. Now the worry might be that there's not enough diversification of thought or belief and inquiry, and that diversification and risk-taking is the sort of thing that we need for innovation, and we could find ourselves in a data cul-de-sac. That's fascinating. Thank you. I've not thought of that before. Tamara, would you like to make a contribution?
As a teacher, it's quite concerning to have that, the students get their first answer and they expect that answer to happen really quickly without having that human thought process, the interrogation, the why. So losing some of that culture around how to use AI, and then that dependency that it creates can be concerning as a teacher, I feel.
Thank you, Sarina.
We've been lucky enough to have a good insight into this because, as I said, we've been trialling New South Wales EduChat in 50 schools across the state. So we've got to see how that has changed teaching and learning in those schools where students are using it. And that's been really great. Now, New South Wales EduChat in the student mode, just really quickly, it uses Socratic questioning. So it doesn't return full answers to students. It asks them questions, it engages them in critical thinking, it walks them through the steps of how to complete tasks. So what we've seen that's been really great is that teachers are able to spend more time supporting students one-on-one to develop their thinking because students can ask the simpler questions of New South Wales EduChat. You know, I'm a high school teacher. I've been in classrooms of more than 30 kids my whole career. You give them a task and the first thing that happens is that at least 18 hands go up to say, "Miss, how do I get started?" Those kind of questions students can work through with New South Wales EduChat, which frees up teacher time to go around and work one-on-one with the learners, which we know as teachers is our core business. That's what we're there for, and that's where the gold really comes from in learning. So that's been a really clear behaviour change that we've seen in our 50 New South Wales EduChat trial schools that we've found really encouraging.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And?
I agree with everything that's been said, absolutely. I just want to say it's very hard to predict where the technology will be in 3 years' time. A lot happens in 6 months. A lot happens in 6 months in these days. What I hope, and there's a really interesting area of Microsoft called Microsoft Research, and they have been doing a piece of work called Tools for Thought. It's actually about how you design and use AI in knowledge work and in the learning environment to enhance cognition. And what I mean by that is that consumption-based approach of give me the answer, I'll take it, thank you very much, is not good enough. We don't want that sort of culture and society going forward. I 100% agree. There is a way we can think about designing and using AI that challenges us to be better thinkers, that acts as a provocateur. I worked in lots of different organisations. Groupthink, which is where everyone starts to think the same, is a genuine problem. When you've been in an organisation long enough, you get used to thinking in certain ways. What I hope that we do with AI is use it as an opportunity to challenge us to think better. I also hope that in 3 years' time, we won't put up with really rubbish processes in the workplace. Microsoft, pretty good, still not there yet. We still have really difficult processes that we have to jump through, which are so painful. And I like to imagine, and maybe this is a bit optimistic, but I like to imagine that younger people coming through will not put up with some of those processes as well. I think we will start to push back on things being grating, difficult, and unnecessarily so. It's not that I think we should always think about the importance of struggling with information and challenging ourselves, that's great, but where do we want to put our precious brain power? We've only got so much finite attention, and if our processes are holding us back from doing great things or thinking better, that's something I hope that we can tackle in the next 3 years. Cross fingers.
Fantastic. And on that note of optimism, what are some examples, some concrete examples, either you've seen or that you might have led personally, that show generative artificial intelligence being used meaningfully and being integrated meaningfully into teaching and learning in Australian schools? I think this might be one for you.
I'm ready. I actually seen something really amazing last term, and a teacher, they were teaching this narrative unit, it was grade 3, and they wanted to immerse their students in the story that they were creating. So they went away, we looked at some AI programs and looked at how we could generate some things. So we've gone from like telling some textual stories, some books, which is still used, fantastic, but creating an immersive experience because the teacher was able to generate these images that clearly identified parts of the story that the students struggled to visualise, and not only just images but also sounds and video to get the students really excited about their writing. And it was one of the best writing units that we have done in grade 3, and it was very cool to see. Fantastic.
Anybody else?
So I guess a lot of the work that I do is in relation to diversity and inclusion in AI, and also using AI for diversity and inclusion. And I find that there are capabilities of AI that allows for example, students with disabilities to gain access to what they couldn't because of their disability. So, voice to text, text to voice generation, and, for people with partially deaf, or, they have sight problems and things like that. So I think that this personalization that AI tools allow you to do for specific disabilities is great. And another one that I think is very useful is for linguistically and culturally diverse students who may have needs for a variety of things that may not be provided by just a general education. So I think those are the two examples for school. And one thing that I read recently was a student, I think it was a year 10 students for ancient history, using the chatbot to interrogate and debate historical events and historical inaccuracies, and to try and sort of use the conversation. Of course, at least we have some degree of confidence that the historical data that is presented to you from, sources have to be accurately related from history. Of course, we know that history itself could be inaccurate, but then to use the chatbot to engage in that kind of conversation and debate was a really useful way of engaging with ancient history and inaccuracies.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Sarina.
Yeah, I'd like to share one story for one of our New South Wales EduChat trial schools that I found really powerful. So this is a high school and was working with a group of students on workforce readiness. And one of the students was, they were drafting letters to potential employers. Particular student who was still building literacy skills was able to draft a letter and input his experiences and his particular skills, and then using that Socratic questioning functionality of New South Wales EduChat was able to work using the tool to refine the letter, improve the language, get it looking really polished, structure it nicely, and in doing that was able to overcome those barriers that might have existed for future employment from that front-facing letter not appearing polished and sophisticated. And really great to chat with his teacher and find out as well that he was offered a job straight out of school as a result of that.
Wow, fantastic. Katie.
Actually, Dan Hart is in the room from New South Wales Department of Education, and I remember, I think it was earlier this year or late last year, you talked about a young girl in country New South Wales struggling with learning. She was a neurodivergent student, and if my memory is correct, but really struggling with literacy, and using New South Wales EduChat was able to jump many levels in quite a quick period of time from memory, and just the school was astounded. I think one of the things that we've got to remember that AI is a really great opportunity for is it does allow the student to provide a very personal lens on how they learn and what they need help with. You can also ask it a million different questions again and again and again. It is endlessly patient. You can do it at 2 a.m. in the morning, which I really like, because, no one's around to help you at 2 a.m. in the morning. And thinking about how these AI systems can augment rather than replace what happens. Teachers, I am a firm believer you will never replace teachers with AI, because learning is such a social exercise. But thinking carefully about how AI can help students who might be struggling, who need that personalised support, I think that's a really wonderful opportunity for all of our students, neurodivergent and not neurodivergent. It's really about meeting students where they are at and helping them get through the process of learning.
Thank you very much. And on that optimistic note, I know I'm feeling even more optimistic about young people's engagement with AI, not just at home when no one is watching, but within the properly structured environment of their school educations here in Australia. I'm afraid, however, that we are out of time for the main panel, but none of you are allowed to leave until the audience joins me in thanking our panelists for this morning's panel. I could stay here. And now, speaking of students, your moment has come. I am absolutely delighted to introduce our students from North Sydney Boys High School, Victor and Ethan from Year 11, the winners, I believe, of last year's Day of AI Challenge, to join me for some quick Q&A in front of everybody. Thank you, Victor, and thank you, Ethan. Now, what has excited you most about generative artificial intelligence?
Well, I think the applications in education for both students and teachers are very exciting. I think most importantly, how adaptable AI is. Because at least for me, in my experience, I've used AI a lot for explaining step for step for how to solve issues. And it can adapt to what I want to know. And I think teachers also can use it for many different ways. Because I think a lot of the most important part of teaching is more about the relationship between teachers and students. So I think the more menial tasks like creating worksheets and resources, it can be offloaded or helped by AI, which I think can be very exciting.
Yeah. On a different note, I'm also really excited about AI in industry, especially in large problems which humans probably couldn't hope to solve, like protein folding and etc. So I think the applications and the applications of AI really makes it truly the way forward for progress in technology and sciences and so on.
Thank you so much. How has artificial intelligence, and especially your use of it through the Day of AI program, changed your beliefs about the future?
Well, I think especially in the competition for Day of AI, I think I figured out more about how AI can be used in more specific industries, beyond what the consumer sees. So I think AI can definitely revolutionize many different methods in which people do things, especially where a lot of data has been managed or a lot of things have to be managed and considered, which I think AI has is more suited towards than humans.
In the Day of AI Challenge, we've also learned a lot about AI literacy and ethical usage of AI, and I think this has also really helped us learn about how AI is not only used in just large language models, but also how AI is used in other fields for in especially specialized AI, and how that could possibly affect the future.
Yeah. Thank you. I think you're both absolutely spot on. And what advice would you have for other young people today who are curious about learning about artificial intelligence?
Well, I think because AI is a rapidly evolving thing, that it's the best thing to start learning as soon as possible, because you can get more exposure to how AI works and what you can do with it. And I think it's especially important because I think AI is definitely going to have a place in the future, and having exposure as soon as possible would be the most important thing right now.
I think AI in education is going to be really crucial towards the next step in learning, just like how maybe search engines and the jump to search engines from libraries might have been a bit jarring. Maybe the jump from search engines to AI might also be a bit jarring. So this leap that we're taking should really be facilitated by early learning about AI for students as soon as possible.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you mentioned that. My favorite story to tell all of our new research students about digital methods in research is about the time I first came to UNSW's campus over 20 years ago. And it was because the journal article I wanted was in a journal that was not subscribed to by my current university. But it said it was at UNSW's university, and I had to get the Gregory's out, work out how to get here, what bus to get. I had to buy a library card, I had to charge it up, I had to find a cash machine. Or it was an entire day of my life to get this one article. And the article wasn't even very good at the end of it. So I tell them, don't complain. Now we have the opposite problem. You have to make this decision throughout this entire sort of tornado of information of where you will look first. All right, my final question for both of you now is as follows. What do you know now about generative artificial intelligence that you wish that you had known earlier?
Obviously, before Day of AI, I hadn't learned much about AI like in industry, but I did know a lot about LLMs, which is large language models, and through interacting with them, I feel like I've really learned a lot more about the direction and where AI is headed. And I really wish that I just knew that AI could be used in this way, and I should have taken advantage of it sooner.
I think I also learned about how more specifically how LLMs work and how they just like pull data from input from like a bunch of different data, which I think can like is helpful to see like how the AI works and how the thing they present to you, like how they get it from, which can also make you more aware of the potential like fallacies or biases they can have, because they can be based off like data sources which may not be that reliable, or which AI cannot tell, which is like unreliable, which like the skills that humans can't have.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for joining us here today. And would everybody please join me in thanking Ethan and Victor. And please take a seat, and I will return to mine. Look, thank you everybody for being here this morning. It's been a fantastic event so far. Please join us for a chat afterwards briefly, because we do have the time. I'm more than happy to stay around and listen to everybody. It's always the most fun and interesting part of any event. We have a number of thanks. So on behalf of Day of AI, I would like to thank the Day of AI's partners for this morning's event again: Microsoft, CSIRO, and the University of New South Wales, because without their support, today's discussion would not have occurred. Thank you also to all of Day of AI Australia's partners for their ongoing support. Most of all, thank you to all of you for being here, our students, our panelists, our industry partners, and our education partners, and Day of AI itself. And on behalf of just me, thank you to Day of AI for everything that you are doing. You are creating, in partnership with today's students, the future world in which they and the rest of us will inhabit. So again, thank you all of you for being here. And that's it. Thank you so much. All right, thank you, everybody.